Today we're talking about webinars. This is an interesting one, coming up a little bit more with clients, our clients, people who are looking, hey, you know what, I want to start doing some webinars. And I think really to start answering, okay, how do you actually go about executing a good webinar? It's good to answer why. Why do you even want to do a webinar in the first place? So let's start there, Mass. When you chat with folks, what are some of the big reasons they want to do a webinar?
I mean, it's one of the best methods to train the masses per se without having to be on site. A lot of people these days also record them and reuse them. So there's some of that where it can be kind of almost like evergreen. Like, for example, a lot of our clients are mortgage brokers. You could do a webinar on things to think about as a first time home buyer. And
Yeah.
that will be pretty evergreen. You could probably redo that every 3 years or something. So it's a great way of one to many. It's a great way of creating some content and really just a good way to educate people.
Yeah.
I personally like them, have a controlled way to ask questions, and there's all kinds of things. But
As a
those are the
host, you're
first
saying.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Those are the
for
things
sure.
that come to my mind. I don't know if there's any other ones from you that
Well, yeah,
are
I think
valid
there's a
too.
couple other dimensions there. I think it's actually a nice lead tool, especially if you're doing maybe some online stuff. It's maybe another part of the funnel, right? When it's okay, I'm not ready to come in and talk about my mortgage and have a conversation with you, but hey, I could open up a Zoom and just sit there and learn some stuff for 30 minutes. Maybe even once they're actually in maybe a drip campaign with you, it's a blast or something like that, saying, "Hey, Massimo, I know you wrote in a couple days ago asking about mortgage stuff. I'm actually running a webinar next week. I think it'd be perfect for you. Why don't you register? Come on out, check it out, and we can have a good conversation there." So it's a little bit of a lower barrier thing for people to come and actually start engaging with you. I think another really interesting thing, we talked to Ryan Wiley last week, and he did this more in person. We're talking about webinar, more virtual, and I think that's where the tech play comes in. But he did this in person. It's the same concept, one to many, but he did it on behalf of his referral partners, which I think
Right.
was such a cool idea. So, again, I'll use you as the example. If you're a realtor that I work with, it's like, hey, Massimo, I'm running a thing that's saying, hey, what should people be thinking about rates in this environment? Or, hey, rates just changed, Bank of Canada, what does that mean for you and your mortgage? There's a lot of questions realtors are getting, and they don't always have the perfect answer to that. Some do, but some don't. So if you can go out and say, hey, Massimo, on our co-branded webinar, you can send it to all your clients. We're just going to teach them. We're not going to sell them anything. It's going to be purely educational. That's really exciting to your realtors. It gives you that value add, even if it maybe you aren't working with them right now actively with clients. Maybe it's someone you want to work with, but hey, Massimo, we've been having a little bit of conversation. Maybe this can be a taste to see how we work together, and it makes them look good ultimately, right? And I think that goes so far. And it can also, if you are saying the right things, or depending the subject of your talk, if you are convincing their clients that, hey, actually they can afford maybe that house that they always wanted to buy but weren't certain if they could do it, then you're looking really good in your realtor shoes, and they're really going to want to work with you, right? So it actually becomes a way that you can build very strong ties with your realtors. Or
Totally.
really any, I mean, even financial planners too, right? I mean, I don't know if you've seen that, brokers going out and reaching out to financial planners and seeing if their clients are interested. Have you seen that?
Realtors are kind of the big one, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of financial trigger points or life trigger points where someone would want to talk to a mortgage broker or learn more. Maybe you just run into a bunch of money and you want to buy an investment property. So
Okay.
a financial planner might send it over, or an accountant might send that lead over. And
Yeah.
so there's lots of different angles you could spin, but probably for obvious reasons, the realtors have been the biggest one just because buying a home needs a mortgage. Yeah.
And I think it depends the nature of the talk, right? I think like what you said, right? It's like, okay, how do you deal with, maybe you've just inherited a lot of money because some distant relative, passed away, right? Or something like that. How do you
Yeah.
deal with that? And is it, the right time to buy a house because of that? Okay, that might be good for your financial planner partners. Okay, but if it's actually, okay, how do you upgrade from a one bedroom condo to your first home with a backyard? I don't know,
Yeah.
right? How do you make that leap? Okay, that might be more relevant to your realtors. So I think it's more about the topic than anything. But yeah, like you said, I think it's more commonly realtors. But I think anyone listening, I would say, hey, don't be afraid to get creative and specific. That's something we always talk about on this podcast is, a lot of people want to make it very general and I can capture anyone, but there's a lot of value in being super specific and saying, hey, if this is the event that's happened to you right now, I have the perfect webinar for it. It's going to allow you to, curate that content a lot better. And it's going to be a lot easier to market, to actually go out and say, hey, join my webinar. because it's so specific.